What up? All right, this is the fourth episode of the worst post-match podcast ever. This show's the worst. Thank you for watching. I just got a notification of my own podcast going live. So that's how we do things around here. All right, week 4 of the MLR. What is there to say? Let's look at the standings. Top 4 teams. You've got the Australian Retirement Club, the 2 bottom dwellers of the West, and a second-year franchise in ATL. And let's look at the bottom 4. Our 2-time reigning and 2-time runner-up Seattle and San Diego are in the bottom 4. So, what's the moral of this story? Nothing makes sense in the MLR, and everything's a crapshoot. Would really want this episode to be interactive, so if you're watching, please go ahead and post all the comments below of what you want to talk about. I was unfortunately on Uncle Sam's time this weekend. Was lucky enough to sneak away and watch the Warriors game live, so that was pretty cool. And then watch LA and Houston's game on the Rugby Network. Or sorry, check that, not Houston's game. What was the other damn game on the Rugby Network? NOLA and Austin. So, yeah. Let's call this little mini intro portion a little Overreaction Tuesday. So, obviously, LA is the champions. So, go ahead and crown them. They are going to be our first undefeated champion in the MLR. You heard it first. Toronto still stinks. Austin is your new dark horse. Utah Warriors are in the dumpster, and everyone else is an absolute crapshoot, and nothing makes sense. So, first game. I think, what's to say about LA and Toronto? I don't think the score was indicative of the performance by Toronto. I think the weather and other factors played a bigger part, and LA was just better at capitalizing on those. But in the end, he still gave up 43 points and had a 20-plus point differential between the two. So it looks like an ass whooping. And it'll go down as an ass whooping and a bonus point for LA. Like they needed another one. So, again, with that performance, LA strongly pulling ahead at the top of the table in both the league and the Western Conference. Their attack is just, a couple Madden points above the rest. I mean, what do you got to say about their attack, right? It's faster, cleaner, crisper, wider than everyone else's. Their scrum half and Gitz seems to have those guys in a position before this previous ruck has ended. And that's what you can tell the difference between LA's attack and the rest of the league right now. They're 9, and whoever the first receiver is, whether it's a forward pack, forward ball, or second receiver, everyone already knows where to be and what to do before the ruck ends. They're not waiting for the ruck to end to get set, to look at the scrum half, to look at the 10, to hear. They're already there. They're already in position. They're already playing. So that's either phenomenal communication, which I wouldn't doubt based on the quality of their players, or when you look at their forward, I mean, they're not very structured. They're sometimes hitting the first guy of the 3, the middle guy of the 3. They're just hitting the guy who's there ready to play. And they can release out the back regardless of how it does, mainly because where their 10 is positioned is kind of the only 10 who's positioned correctly to play out the back and make it look like something's actually happening with the forwards, not just dudes standing there passing a ball behind him. Their scrum half plays with quickness. He gets the ball out. He doesn't need to step over, step across, double step, or regather the ball when he picks it up. He gets there, Doesn't matter his foot placement. Picks the ball up, sends it to the first receiver. I'll touch on that a little bit more as to why you can see the difference between certain teams' attacks and not. I think Craig, Monday Morning Fly Half, wrote a great article this week. If you had a chance to read it, I would. I have in full agreement with him that we kind of have given a little too much clout and attention to the fly half position, where I think it's the play of the scrum halves is what's setting teams apart this year. In previous years, you could say the teams with stud fly halves, it was pretty much done and dusted. Whether winning or not, they were going to have a better performance, or by how much were they going to win, not if they were going to win or not. This year, I think you're seeing it's the scrum halves, which is cool. It's interesting. It's intriguing. I'm not quite sure why that is. Whether, for the most part, outside of, honestly, I guess you could say Matt Gitto and Joe Peterson, just by name and experience and recognition, that most at the 10 position is pretty much leveled out across the league. It's not, you're not all over the map. You're pretty much right through here when it comes to most of the starting 10s in the league and the quality and the skills they possess. Everyone kind of has a thing that they're a little bit better at than the other. But for the most part, outside of, one or two, it's kind of leveled out. And I think you're seeing the change in scrum half play now come to a head with the teams with quality, quick, fast, accurate nines are making the difference over, the team that had a stud 10 last year, 2 years ago. So, good job to LA. I think everyone got a little high on Toronto for their offensive performance last week. Again, I think the weather factors down in New Orleans can be taken a little more consideration, but that also just continue to give props to LA because they adapted, made it work, and put points on the board. Toronto, jury's, still kind of out on those guys and what they're capable of, both offensively and defensively, right? Everyone kind of assumes they're going to be a good defensive team, but you drop 43 points to a team down in NOLA who's coming from California, and you've been practicing in Atlanta, should be way more prepared for southern heat, humidity, and conditions, not the team practicing on the beach in Southern California. So, again, shout out to LA, man. I don't like the model. I don't like what they're doing. Or I shouldn't say I don't like what they're doing. I don't think it's a sustainable model. I've said it many times before. I have absolutely no goddamn idea in the fucking world how they're under the salary cap and whatever they're doing on the side to get those types of players there living, thriving in Southern California. I have no goddamn clue. I'm sure there's a lot of consulting jobs going around for those dudes, but I don't know. Whatever Gilchrist is doing, the rest of the owners need to jump on board because as of right now, his two teams are 1-2 because he's spending money, doing shit that professional rugby teams are supposed to be doing, getting quality players, and increasing the quality of life for his players. Somehow, I've got a couple buddies down at Austin. I haven't asked, the nitty gritty ins and outs. I don't know how great it is down there or good. They've got a good setup. They've got money. Who knows? But as you can see, this is professional sports. So that's the fastest way to the top. Who is going to open the checkbook first and most aggressively? And the owners that's doing that has the 1 and 2 teams in the league right now. So I don't necessarily love it. It is kind of funny the contrast between Austin being a little more of a U.S. player-based kind of development, team, and LA being the flash and dash mercenary team, which is funny. Hand it to him. The guy's a fucking genius. His Texas team has more American players, and his LA team has more international players. Obviously, the guy's a multimillionaire. He knows what he's doing. So shout out to him. Moving on, obviously, Austin, talk of the weekend, pulling off the victory at NOLA and closing out and winning a game that was close in the last 10 minutes, which they hadn't done in probably call it 2.5 years. They hadn't won a game that was within a try, we'll call it, or whatever, in the last 10 minutes. So impressive. Shout out to them, especially holding a New Orleans, one of the best offenses in the league, to 15 points, which I think is slowly. I don't know the stats. I don't really read the stats. I don't really give a shit. The guys that do the stats, it's some like third party company. They do other sports and they do rugby, so like they know rugby, they know the stats to look for, but I don't really give a shit. Kind of the eye test. Austin has pretty much the best defense in the league. I'm sure they're top 3 or 4 statistically, but eye test, they're the best defense in the league. Hands down, it's not even close. I think obviously they have a ways to go on attack still. I think they're still too flat, too kind of cookie cutter, kind of very readable. They're not asking any real questions on attack. So they've got to figure that out. They've got to get some width. Obviously, we're not, looking at some world class, World Cup top player in the world at the 9 position for Austin right now. I think he's a very good player, but I think that's the difference, right? You have what would be called at least upper echelon player at 10 when it comes between Will, Kurt, and who's the other guy they play at 10. All very, very good, right? But you can see without a world-class 9 right now, they're a little bit slower, a little step off, half a second here to make sure someone's there, giving a second look when you get there, second, third look before the ball comes out, ball gets picked up and reset to here instead of picked up and passed. That little pickup, bring back, pass, that's 2 steps by the defense right there. And you're probably not making gain line, or you're asking a forward to use way too much footwork to try to get something going, and then you're restarting and restarting and restarting instead of gaining momentum. And so that kind of slows it up. So it'll be interesting to see. Everyone's kind of talked about, everyone's excited for the mid-May matchup between the Gills, I guess we'll call them. Nobody knows what that stupid-ass game is going to be called, between 2 teams named after cocktails. Mind you, this is coming from someone who now manages a bar. Still dumb that you're named after 2 cocktails. But hey, whenever they actually exist, let me know your distribution. We'll have you in Iowa. Hopefully they have good labels and something about rugby. And I want to try it. I like a good dirty martini every once in a while and a Negroni every once in a while to mix it up. But we'll see. They don't exist yet. So the teams have existed longer than the actual drinks. But yeah, I'm looking forward to whenever they come out. As much as I make fun of those stupid-ass names. Because they're dumb. I don't care. But I'll still drink the drink. All right, moving on. Houston, San Diego. Didn't get to watch it. Talked to a couple of the guys after the game. And it was, everything I saw in the highlights, in the write-ups, and other people's coverage. Sounded like a great game. Kind of sad I don't have Fox or CBS or regular TV to watch those games every week. But it is what it is. And yeah, I heard it was a great game. I saw all the insane highlight tries that were scored from it. That was pretty awesome. Obviously, San Diego is looking like they're finding their way on attack, at least. Obviously, you give up a 30 burger to a team that just got double goose egged. Doesn't give a lot of compliments to your defense right now. I don't think any single person in the rugby world, besides whatever his bucket was with the West Des Moines Wombat, that just pulled it out of his ass that he thought Houston was going to be due for a game. Whatever, you took your intuition, good for you. But nobody had them dropping 30 points and beating San Diego. I certainly did it. I embarrassingly went 1-4 this weekend because, like I said, nothing makes sense in the MLR. Every team is equal, and if you have a 20-minute outside of LA, because they're the champs, crown them. Crown them! Shout out Pat McAfee. Crown them. All right? Every team is equal. Everyone's rosters are equal. And if you catch a team on a bad day or you have a bad 20 minutes and you can't make up for it, you're probably going to lose. So, good job, Houston. Love those dudes down there. A lot of good buddies on that team. Again, a team who's had to go through the shit of the league and losing seasons and this and that. And you always root for those guys to get a win because Lord knows I've been there for a couple years. So, always like seeing teams like that get a win. I'm going to skip ahead. Again, didn't watch the New York-Atlanta game. I was in a airport all day flying back. And, yeah, didn't get to watch it. Saw some of the write-ups. Was trying to follow on my phone a little bit. The final score looks better than it was. Atlanta snuck that one in the last couple minutes. Makes the score look a lot better. But let's be real, it was 27-10. New York was in full control the entire time. Again, I could not get a feel for this Atlanta team. Nobody knows what San Diego team is going to show up week to week. So you had to give them props and respect for how they played and how they won that game last week. You can't take a dominant victory away from someone. And yeah, I jumped on the bandwagon. I picked them. I thought it was going to continue. But yeah, like week after week, this just leaves you, every week that goes by, the race for second place just leaves you with more questions than answers on these teams. But it is interesting, week to week. Unless you're a sports bettor, I don't know what the MLR betting thing is right now. I know the league signed it and they have that weird-ass show with a bunch of dudes who have probably literally never seen a rugby field in their life, making picks about, spreads and whatnot, which, fine. If there's any people that you take spread and betting advice from, it is not players with rugby or any type of playing experience. Take it from a bunch of nerds behind a computer because that's what they do. At least that's my opinion. But it's always funny when you can tell the dude hasn't seen a field since, Division 27 men's rugby in 87 with the long sleeve cotton polo shirt. But now all of a sudden they're a pundit and an expert. But hey, that shouldn't sound as bitter as it does, but fuck it. It's true. Yeah, didn't get to see that. New York played well, played dominant. Saw some of the highlights, read the write-up. Obviously, you beat a team of the quality of Atlanta by, 17 to 10 points. You played well. All right, this one's going to be short. It's going to be sweet. It's late. I made my beautiful, lovely wife turn off her absolute hot garbage television Hulu show that she watches about some weird-ass British people on a goddamn island. Don't know who thought the irony of people who live on an island also being on a reality show on a tropical island. But yeah, I don't know. Some Survivor shit with British people, but I made her turn it off because I'm shooting in the living room today because I didn't want to move stuff around and shoot anything in the back. And essentially, we've got no comments. So, until we get some comments, this one's going to be short. We're going to move on to the last game. I'm going to get a little in-depth with this because it gives me an opportunity to be more in-depth with Seattle than I had been before and a little more in-depth with the Warriors. Um, so let's do the Warriors first, and try to say this without being too much of a dig on Seattle. I thought this outcome was based more off the Warriors' poor play than Seattle's superior play. So Seattle, I think, still has no idea what they want to be on attack. They have about 2 to 3, if I'm being friendly, plays that work. And if that doesn't work, they are SOL. That little double switch, middle crash, hard line play they run in the middle. It is pretty good. It's a good strike play. It's a lot going on, but obviously, if you can front up on it, it's not really going to go anywhere. Obviously, Drew is a freaking monster. Made a play, got some space, and, made grown men look like little kids in the open field because that's what Drew does. And, yeah, I like Seattle's post. You got a freaking monster 6 now with Olympic sevens experience and trying to put some respect on his name. So, but I mean, take that away, right? Take away Andrew Duratalo's freak stud individual effort on a strike play, a one-phase play. That's a freak play in rugby. And it's a tie game, right? Minus that 5 points, it's 15-15. So it's kind of why I said poor play. I mean, it takes poor play, poor individual efforts, it took about 3 very poor, embarrassing individual efforts for that strike play to be a 40-plus meter try, right? The fact that it wasn't fronted up at the play, and then your 2 guys in the back 3 that did everything they could to not get in the way of a big forward running downfield and let him fall into the try zone. So, right? And then outside of that, they have kind of their, call it rolling thunder, whatever you call it. Everyone's got the same kind of thing where off the lineouts, you just got forwards hauling ass around the corner. And every time they did it, they get their stud run. They get Reeker and Rakai, Drew, their big boy stud runners just screaming, not straightening it up, hitting super 45-degree angles and just getting go forward, go forward, go forward. Probably chew 20-ish plus meters every time they did it. And Utah had no goddamn answer. They were getting their asses smoked around the corner by Seattle. So that was a great play. But they'd get about to the sideline. And, yeah, as of right now, Seattle's return attack, which, again, everyone calls it something different, right? Everything off a strike play takes you to that natural sideline. And then those first 2 phases of your return make or break what your attack's going to look like. And their return attack right now is basically non-existent. As soon as they go static, the Seattle attack's pretty much done. So it's interesting to see what that can lead to. They have 2 things that work, and they have a lot that doesn't. Defensively, I think they're getting it together. I'll jump more into that. Utah's attack was abysmal. If we're going off the accuracy that it had the first 2.5 weeks, because New England, we started seeing some teetering off of what it was, to this week was about as poor as it could have been. And, yeah, honestly, this is one of those scenarios, you kind of saw the difference between a starting 9 and a backup 9. I think the young kid with the Warriors kind of put the veil over people's faces when you pull off a 50, 60 meter breakout try, stud, big highlight play. That's a quick way to kind of window wash over any inefficiencies that a player might have, right? The appeal to coaches of the big play player, can kind of make or break when it comes to actually the play-by-play accuracy that's actually needed at the 9 position. I don't, for me, I'm speaking as me right now, right? I don't give a shit if my 9 can step 7 dudes in a phone book and bust off a 60-meter try if every 1 out of 3 to 4 of his passes is off this mark right here. If I'm going here, below my waist, God forbid this far above my head, right? But if this changes, okay, right? This is 100%. This is a C. Anything waist or crotch area is a C minus. And then once your elbows are above your ears, that's an F. Once your hands are below your knees, that's an F, right? Anywhere in that middle ground, depending, if that's your 1 or 3 is up in the face or at the crotch, we're talking world class. If, 1 out of 5 or 6 is completely below the knees or above the head, there's nothing you can do. That's not the level that this league's ready for. So I think the young guy they have is good. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he's got to live and die in honing his craft of passing. Because, it's been night and day, the Utah attack, with Baska being out and just some inaccuracies with passing. I think even Hagen, the 10, was guilty of it. There's a lot of balls hitting the ground if you watch this game. I mean, a lot. Outside of Utah, getting in its own way with some stupid offloads and some things like that, you just saw, normal passes bouncing off the turf. Seattle took every opportunity with that too. They rushed up. They put pressure every time Utah did it. And again, Utah had some good individual effort plays that led to tries, but, same thing, right? If you take out some of those, we're looking at an even lower, maybe even 15-5 or 10 or something like that. So it'll be interesting. I'm interested to see these two teams going forward. I don't want to say the Warriors are regressing, and I don't necessarily want to say Seattle is ascending, because if you sat and watched that game, you saw two teams. You saw a flat Utah Warriors, not ready to play, not ready to start the game, and that also leads to inaccuracies. So whatever edge, whatever spark, whatever attention to detail that they had in the first 2 weeks it's regressing. Fuck it, it is what it is. Seattle, obviously was getting smacked in the mouth for 3 weeks in a row. Kind of sick and tired of it. Took an absolute dogging in LA. Had a bye week to sit and marinate with that, and came out with more juice, more enthusiasm. Like I said, the best thing they had in attack was their forward rolling thunder around the, old school, around the corner, boys. Beat them. Your forwards beating them than the other forwards. And it worked. Every time they did it, they beat Utah around the corner, and they were running like they wanted to, running like they meant it. And it was an ugly game, slow game. Obviously, the Utah is actually going to be I'm interested to see. It is what it is. Josh Whippy's probably getting 2 to 4 weeks. Whenever that sanction comes down, kind of inevitable. 2 weeks in a row now of some dangerous play, and he caught a dude in the face with a hand. Obviously, I think the turf led to head bounce on the turf led to more than just a hit to the face, but it doesn't matter if the hit to the face led to the head hitting the turf. The player responsible is going to pay the price. And not receiving any sort of card for that action, I actually believe. Well, I don't know the actual rules because I don't necessarily read them because they're probably stupid. But if you didn't receive a card for something like that, and then someone sees it later, the actual severity of it should actually lead to a bigger punishment, in my opinion, instead of getting red, taking your punishment in game, and then receiving something follow on because you've already been punished for the infraction, getting away with something because again, MLR, Rugby Network, commissioner, head of refereeing, fucking anyone involved with the league that sees this. Why don't we have TMO? It's year 4. Every team has TV. You have a goddamn streaming service that streams to a central location where all these freaking jabronis that do commentary are commentating from. They're not even at the damn games. They're sitting in a booth in Austin watching this. So if you can do that, why can't you have designated TMOs for these games? Listen, I'm saying this would be a detriment to my former team and a very close good friend of mine in Josh. Like a very good friend of mine in Josh. This would have led to his ass getting red carded and he's probably going to get in trouble. But on the flip side of that, you have a dude and a team in Seattle who I fully understood. I mean, you have Riekert just harassing Derek Summers over this call, which I'm sure he probably was better than me, but how many what the fucks went through his head that he just saw his guy get clocked in the mouth, knocked out unconscious, carted off the field. You know, who know, like, again, this is separate anything. This is a massive, serious head injury by a professional athlete. Like, we all know, right, what the repercussions of this are and, you know, long-term health effects. It's a big deal. And, right, now, God forbid, right, Seattle retaliates or takes a dirty or a cheap shot, right? I'm not saying that's cool, but there is a policing of the game that used to exist within the players. But, I mean, obviously, God forbid, I don't want that to happen to my friends, but he's pleading, and there's nothing you can do. Genuinely, right? You can miss things like that. It happens. Refs are human. Sideline judges are human. Everyone's human. Now, I don't necessarily know how it was on ball, right? I don't know how you miss it, but whatever. It happens. Things are missed all the time. Why the fuck don't we have TMO? It's year 4. This is a professional rugby league. You have a streaming service. You have cameras at every game. Centralize them. Who cares if they have to radio in? You can make a connection to the goddamn commentators that are calling every game. You can have a TMO sitting there watching games, right? There's plenty of freaking Yahoo know-it-alls in Austin and in the league right now that'll happily take an extra paycheck to be a TMO, all right? I'm freaking ranting, right? It is what it is, but it's ridiculous. We had TMO year 1, and it was like it was fucking random. It was only the teams that had jumbotrons, and only the ref could watch replays of the jumbotron. And if you had a fucking smart home field play cutter, and he didn't show the good angles that were going to get your team in trouble, you probably got away with that TMO too. That happened to us a couple times. I saw it happen to other teams. I thought it was absolutely hilarious, right? You call for a TMO. People in the crowd definitely saw it. And if your replay dude knew anything about rugby and he only showed the shit angles that didn't see the infraction and you got away with it, it was awesome. But that was year 1 with us playing at goddamn middle school football fields and whatever that fucking golf course sand trap that New Orleans called a field in the first 2 years, and wherever else everyone had some absolute, you know, garbage field to start the season, we still had TMO. Now we're year 4 with places getting actual facilities, genuine professional level fields, and we have a network and streaming service, and every single minute of every game is televised. So get a TMO. You have player safety coming into concern. You have just genuine missing of key moments in games. You have, you know, questionable touch calls that may or may not have been tries based off just some dude on the sidelines call, which you've seen if you watch any level of rugby, get wrong and get right. And a lot of times when you know you have TMO, you let it ride because you can come back and check. Who knows how many tries, disallowed, allowed, not grounded, all this, that, and the other, and how that changes games and how that could change all these outcomes. But All right, I've covered most of the game. Good job to Seattle. I don't think they're there yet. I think their attack has a long, long, painful way to go this season. But you took advantage of a Utah team that came out like they've been reading their damn press clippings, got 2 wins in a row, and a close win against a good New England team, and were high and mighty and took their foot off the gas pedal, came out flat, and not paying attention to detail and paid the price. So, good job, Seattle. Got the victory. Utah, hopefully 2 losses in a row is enough to fucking smack you jabronis in the mouth, and you can get back to whatever mental edge you had in the first 2 weeks and start looking like you give a shit about winning. But yeah, we're going to keep this show short again. We're under 40 minutes, which is a record. But also, I was sitting in a goddamn stupid tent for 4 days in the Utah hills. Yeah, doing Uncle Sam shit. So, anyone who's been there knows exactly how dumb my weekend was. And yeah, again, thanks for tuning in. This episode's short, sweet, just my opinions on shit. If you like hearing it, please like, please share, please tell people. That's the only way this show grows, gets better, can do cool stuff. Eventually start having guests and all this stuff, and try to compete with all these freaking high rollers over at the network with their graphics and their stupid button-up shirt and jackets and their stupid desks and all that stuff. So, yeah, like, share, comment, talk shit. Sweet. Thank you. Good night.